I'm Nigel Lythgoe, and this is The Enemy Within. 5 contestants, one of whom is the enemy. A cheat who has seen all of the answers. Unless they are named, they will leave with everyone else's winnings, which is why they're called the enemy. Let's meet our contestants. Gary Hutton from St Helens, Helen Begg from Falkirk, Rob Fox from Bury, Lynn McLaughlin from Fleet, and Jim Averill from Lichfield. You all know the enemy is within your ranks. One of you is a cheat who will stop at nothing to keep their identity hidden in order to steal everyone's money today. I'll try and help you today, but like you, I don't know who the enemy is. Let's meet our first enemy suspect. Gary Hutton, you're a resettlement worker. We asked you, have you ever cheated a friend?
Yes, I have. A friend came round and she asked if she could have a herbal tea. As I didn't have any herbal tea in, I found an old used tea bag, swilled it round in hot water and squirted some lemon juice in it. And she didn't know the difference until today.
Well, you've cheated friends, so I'm sure you'll have no problem cheating strangers. Gary Hutton, are you the enemy?
No, I'm not.
I'm now going to ask you 3 questions. Each one is worth £25. If you give me the incorrect answer or you don't know the answer, I'll throw it open for a bonus. We know the enemy has been given all of the answers, but will they use them? You'll need to focus and be extremely vigilant in our first round. Gary, which British boxer earned the nickname the Dark Destroyer?
Nigel Benn.
Correct. In cookery, what name is given to oysters wrapped in bacon?
I don't know.
Throwing it open. Jim.
Devils on horseback?
No, it's angels on horseback. But quite close. Which comedian was backed by the Wonder Stuff on his 1991 hit, Dizzy?
Vic Reeves.
Correct. Let's meet our second enemy suspect. Helen Begg, you're a customer services officer. We asked you, does cheating pay?
Yes, I definitely think it does. When I was at high school, I had a French exam and I was really struggling with my work. So I wrote a couple of sentences in the back of my dictionary and used them in my writing paper. And I ended up getting the grade I wanted, so it was definitely worthwhile.
It'll definitely be worth it today. You'll get everyone else's winnings. Helen Begg, are you the enemy?
No, certainly not, Nigel.
Your 3 questions, each worth £25. Which is America's bluegrass state?
Kentucky.
Correct. In 1994, who was sworn in as South Africa's head of state?
Nelson Mandela?
Mandela is right. Don't be so nervous, Helen, unless you're trying to hide something. In which US comedy does Sarah Jessica Parker play journalist Carrie Bradshaw?
Sex and the City.
Sex and the City, you knew that. Quite happy with that answer. Let's move on to our third enemy suspect. Rob Fox, a sales consultant. We asked him, is cheating acceptable?
I don't think it is, because if someone does cheat, then they're gaining and someone has to lose, and whether it's financial or it's, moral, it's just not acceptable to cheat someone out of something. You see a lot of it on the football pitch and you see a lot of it, within business, and it's just not an acceptable thing.
You say it's not acceptable, yet you destroyed a hotel bed when you were drunk and denied all knowledge of it, Rob. Rob Fox, are you the enemy?
No, I'm not.
Your 3 questions. What does the DK stand for in the fashion label DKNY?
Donna Karan.
Correct. Wrapped in nettles, Yarg cheese is a product of which English county?
Staffordshire.
Throwing it open. No guesses. The enemy's keeping very quiet, because obviously the enemy knows the answer. It's Cornwall. Unless, of course, Rob, you're the enemy and you didn't want to give me the answer. What is the chemical symbol for magnesium?
MG.
Correct. Let's move on to our 4th enemy suspect, Lynn McLaughlin, a housewife. We asked her, what do you think of cheats?
I don't like them because I think they hurt people and that's not nice. If they could find a way to cheat on someone and it wasn't going to hurt them, I think maybe. just maybe, that might be okay. But I hope that no one that I know would cheat on me.
I'll be honest with you, Lynn. The enemy will cheat on you today. Unless it's you, Lynn McLaughlin. Are you the enemy?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. We'll see. Your 3 questions, each one worth £25. Who wrote the novel To Kill a Mockingbird? Throwing it open, Rob.
Ernest Hemingway.
No, it was Harper Lee. What was the name of Moby's mega-selling album in 1999?
No idea.
Throwing it open, Jim.
Play.
Correct. In the USA, a julep cocktail is traditionally garnished with which herb?
Mint.
Correct. Was that a guess?
No.
It wasn't. You knew it. You were very nervous in your answer.
Yes, I was.
What have you got to be nervous about, Lynn? Being caught out today? Let's move to our final enemy suspect. Jim Averill is a postperson. We asked him, what do you think drives people to cheat?
Well, I think people cheat because the premium on winning things nowadays is so great that it's inevitable. Especially, for example, in sport, financially, the financial rewards are so great that sport cheating is inevitable. But at the end of the day, it's still not fair. I always think fair play should rule.
Well, on this show, Jim, cheating is fair play. And if you cheat well, you're rewarded well. But then you knew that, Jim. Jim Averill. Are you the enemy?
No, I am not.
Your 3 questions, each one is worth £25. Which Italian tourist attraction was reopened to the public in December 2001?
Leaning Tower of Pisa.
That's correct. Which pop trio has Kelly, Michelle and Beyonce in its lineup?
Bewitched.
Throwing it open, Helen.
Destiny's Child.
Destiny's Child. Which tennis star resurrected her career in 2001 by winning 2 Grand Slam tournaments?
Jennifer Capriati.
Jennifer Capriati is correct. That's the end of that round, and I'm not going to reveal your running totals. Only our viewers at home will be able to see them. I will tell you that Helen is currently the leader. Is that because she's cheating, or is that because she's cleverer than you? I wonder if you've picked up any clues yet. Maybe you have at home. If you have, then the telephone lines will be open at the end of our next round. You can call us and let us know who you think the enemy is. Let's move into our second round, which is a buzzer round. Each question is worth £25. I'll throw it open if it isn't answered correctly. But one thing you have to remember here, don't let your vision be clouded by getting wrapped up in the game. You have to spot the enemy. You need to pick up clues, stay focused, and let's try and flush out the faker in round 2. Pewter is an alloy of tin and which other metal? Rob?
Copper.
No, throwing it open. Helen?
Lead.
Lead is correct. Well done, Helen. The motto of which royal is Ishdeen? Jim?
Prince of Wales.
The Prince of Wales is correct. It means I serve. Which paper is used to test for acid or alkali? Jim?
Litmus.
Correct. According to the adage, a cat has how many lives? Lynn?
9.
Correct. Who got to number 1 in the 1996 singles chart with Killing Me Softly? Gary?
Roberta Flack.
I said in 1996, I'm throwing it open. Rob?
The Fugees.
The Fugees is right. Gary, it was an original by Roberta Flack, but I did say 1996. But maybe you knew that, and it was a good buzz-in. Throw everybody off the scent. A very clever one if it was. Butt ending and slap shot. Jim?
Ice hockey.
Well jumped in. I was going to ask what game it was. It was almost like you'd seen the question before I asked it, Jim.
Oh, just well anticipated.
Well anticipated. How many points is the letter Q worth in the game of Scrabble? Helen?
10.
10 is right. Casualty star Will Mellor first came to fame as Jambo in which... Rob?
Hollyoaks.
Correct. Who was the comedy partner of Dudley Moore? Gary?
Peter Cook.
Peter Cook is correct. In which British city might you walk from Piccadilly Gardens to G-Mex? Helen?
Manchester.
Manchester is correct. At the end of our second round, I'm still not going to reveal your individual scores. All I can tell you is that Helen is still in the lead. But does that mean that she's today's enemy? We're now halfway through the game, and I'm sure you're trying to pick up clues along the way, and you must be forming some thoughts. Gary, who do you think today's enemy is and why?
I think it's Jim,
Really? Why?
because every other contestant has been looking around, interested in how people are answering. Jim's been looking straight ahead all the time.
Maybe he's just unfocused and too wrapped up in the game?
Or maybe he doesn't care what we're doing.
Helen, who do you think the enemy is?
I think it's Jim as well.
Do you?
Yeah.
Why?
He buzzed in too early for that question.
Well, maybe he's a sports fan and he'd heard the word slapshot, butt ending. Maybe it was that. Rob,
I think it's Lynn
Lynn,
at the moment, yeah.
why?
Just seems a bit too innocent, like she's got something to hide.
Lynn, are you too innocent? Who do you think the enemy is?
I'm undecided. I think it's either Jim or Helen. I think he could have quite easily known that ice hockey one.
Right.
But Helen's been answering quite a lot.
She's doing very well with her answers. Then again, would the enemy come out into the spotlight like that? Which one do you nominate then?
Stick with Jim at the moment.
Sticking with Jim. Jim, few fingers pointed at you. Who do you think the enemy is?
Well, I think it's Helen.
Why?
There was just a couple of questions in the first round. Maybe I'm being disrespectful to her, but I was surprised that she knew the answer to it.
You are being disrespectful. Maybe she's just a very clever girl.
And maybe I'm just a very clever guy.
Three fingers are pointing at you, Jim. If you are not the enemy, then you've been very cleverly framed. And also at you, Helen. Maybe the enemy is playing a very clever game, just sitting back, letting the people take the heat out of the situation by answering the questions. How about you at home? Have you picked up anything our contestants have missed? Do you think you know who the enemy is? If you think it's Gary, it's 0901 383 4141. If you think it's Helen, then it's 0901 383 4142. If you think it's Rob, then call 0901 383 4143. If you think it's Lynn, then call 0901 383 4144. And if you think it's Jim, then call 0901 383 4145. 5 randomly selected winners will each receive £200. The lines will be open until the end of our final round, and calls cost 25 pence. Not bad odds, 25 pence to win £200, but maybe better odds than you've got today. It's 4-1 whether you're right. We'll move on to our next round. I'm going to ask you 3 questions each. The questions are worth £75, but they're on a specific subject, and your problem is you haven't chosen that specific subject, so it's quite possible you'll get everything wrong. That is, of course, unless you've read the answers. But why would you show yourself up? If you didn't pick up any clues in rounds 1 or 2, you're going to have to pick them up in this, our 3rd round. Gary, your specific subject is famous pigs. Do you know a lot about famous pigs, Gary?
Not a lot, no.
Let's see how you do. In which 1995 film is an orphan piglet adopted by a family of border collies?
Babe.
Correct. Which author created Little Pig Robinson?
I don't know.
Trying it open. Very famous novelist, Beatrix Potter. The enemy lied low. Captain Link Hogthrob appeared in which TV show?
I don't know.
Throwing it open. Jim?
The Muppets.
The Muppets. Pigs in Space. Do you remember that, Gary?
Yeah.
Alan, let's move to you. Your specialist subject is the Beatles. Do you like the Beatles?
I listen to their music, but I'm a bit young to
Yeah,
know.
sure, but your mum and dad must have played the Beatles.
Yeah.
The Beatles' last live concert tour performance was in 1966 at Candlestick Park in which American city?
I don't know.
Jim
San Francisco.
is correct. She Loves You went to #1 in the UK charts in which year?
In the sixth.
Worth a guess, Helen, but you didn't
I
make
don't
one.
know.
Jim,
1963.
absolutely right, Jim. You're a big Beatles fan, aren't
Yeah,
you?
definitely.
Which Beatle is left-handed?
Paul McCartney.
Guess?
Yep.
It's a good one, correct. A little bit of acting going on there, I thought, Helen.
That's the only one that I know.
No, but you just went like that, as though you were happy that you got it.
I am happy.
Yeah. Rob, let's move to you. Your specific subject is screen villains. Which screen bad boy uttered the line, made it mar, top of the world at the end of White Heat? Throwing it open, Jim.
James Cagney.
James Cagney is correct. Which actor played Hans Gruber in Die Hard and the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves?
Val Kilmer.
Throwing it open, Jim.
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman is correct. If Clint Eastwood was the good and Eli Wallach was the ugly, who played the bad in the hit spaghetti western?
No idea.
Throwing it open, Jim.
Lee Van Cleef.
Correct. Lynn, let's move to you. Your specialist subject is lads magazines.
Great.
What do the initials of GQ magazine stand for?
Gentleman.
Throwing it open, Helen.
Gentleman's Quarterly.
Absolutely, Helen. In which year did Maxim begin publication?
1983.
Throwing it open. Rob.
95.
95 is correct. A good guess or you knew?
I do read lads magazines.
Do you read a lot of answers?
No.
Featured on a BBC Two documentary, which magazine was launched by editor Piers Hanou?
No idea.
Rob.
Loaded.
No, it was Front. Jim, we move to you. Your specific subject is Bob the Builder. Any children, Jim?
Yeah, but they're beyond that age. They're 13 and 11.
What is the name of Bob's steamroller?
No.
Throwing it open, Lynn.
Rowley.
Rowley, indeed it is. Spud does a useful job for Mr. Pickles the farmer. What is it?
No idea.
No guesses? I'm throwing it open, Lynn.
Scarecrow.
He is the Scarecrow. You have children?
I do.
Bob's cat has the same name as which type of fish?
Halibut.
Throwing it open. Helen beat you, Lynn, I'm sorry.
Pilchard.
Pilchard is correct. Well, that's the end of that round, and for the first time, I can now reveal your cash totals and a reminder for our viewers at home of those telephone numbers which will close at the end of our next round. Gary, you have £175. Rob, you have £225. Lynn, you have £225. Helen, you have £475. And Jim, you have £675. So Jim is our current leader. But does that make him the enemy? Let's take a moment's pause here in order to look at your past. And in some cases, your shady past. Gary, you came back from a holiday and said you'd picked up a stomach bug in order to get an extra week off work. Instead of giving you that extra week, they actually put you in the Hospital of Tropical Diseases, where you were poked and prodded for 2 days when there was absolutely nothing wrong with you. You tried to cheat your work. You'd certainly try and cheat here today. Helen. Helen went on holiday and met a lovely young man called Andrew. However, Andrew knew that Helen was going out with Lewis back home, so he didn't do anything until the day Helen rushed up to him on holiday and said that Lewis had died in a tragic accident. Of course, Andrew was of great comfort to her for several days until he heard her on the phone back to England speaking to Lewis. Helen is a cheat. Rob. Rob lists one of his dreams as going out with the model Jordan. He said because she will give him scintillating conversation. Rob is not very bright. Why is he answering so many questions today? Lynn used to do some market research. She got £50 a day for it, but on opening her pay packet, she found £100 in there. What did she do? She called up work and she told them. She said, I've got too much money in my pay packet. Lynn is a totally honest human being. What a perfect cover for today's enemy. Jim, you're sitting there looking quite worried, and so you should. When Jim's girlfriend went off on her holiday, Jim bumped into an ex-girlfriend. When his current girlfriend returned, he got a big love bite on his neck. And he told her the dog had done it. These are the types of characters you're dealing with today. One of them is your enemy. You must build up a profile and decide which it is. Time is running out as we move into round 4. And this is a chance for you all to dramatically increase your cash totals. The first question is worth £100. Anybody can buzz in and take it. If you're right, then the cash prize for the next question will go up by £25, but it will not be offered across. The most important question today is, who is the enemy? You must get that right at the end of this, our final round. For £100 in 1995, who partnered Jerome Flynn on 3 UK #1 hits? Rob?
Robson Green.
Correct. For £125, prior to 1939, which country was known as Siam? Helen?
Thailand.
Correct. For £150, what does the abbreviation YMCA stand for? Rob?
Young Man's Counselling Association.
It is Young Men's Christian Association. Still, for £150, which West Indian country is famed for its Blue Mountain coffee? Jim?
Jamaica.
Correct. For £175, by what name is sportsman Eldrick Woods better known? Helen?
Tiger Woods.
Correct. For £200, who topped the 2001 UK charts with her Songbird album? Jim?
Eva Cassidy.
Correct. For £225, Admiralty Arch links the Mall with which London square? Helen?
Trafalgar Square.
Correct. For £250, in which Julie Walters film did Jamie Bell play the title role? Jim?
Billy Elliot.
Correct. For £275, the novel Only Dad made the bestsellers lists for which TV personality? Enemies not jumping in. It was Alan Titchmarsh. Still, for £275, which group sang London's Calling in 1970? Jim?
The Clash.
The Clash is correct. That's the end of our questions for the quiz, and our phone lines are now closed. Here are your final cash totals. Gary, you have £175. Lynn, you have £225. Rob, you have £325. Helen, you have £1,000, and Jim, you have £1,550, which means that Jim is today's winner. However, that might be the closest any of you get to that money, because the enemy can still steal it from you. The enemy is still within. In a moment, I'm going to be asking you to nominate that enemy, and you must give me a majority decision. If you fail to do that and give me a split decision, then it's the audience's vote that will be decisive, whether you agree with it or not. It's now time for that audience vote. So, audience, who is the enemy? Our audience vote will only be seen by our viewers at home, but remember, all of the questions you've answered so far will be for nothing if you don't get this next one right. Gary, who is the enemy?
Helen.
Helen, who is the enemy?
Jim.
Rob, who is the enemy?
Jim.
Lynn, who is the enemy?
Helen.
Jim, who is the enemy?
Helen.
Well, Gary, Lynn, and Jim all point the finger at you, Helen. But are they right? Will the real enemy now stand up? They are right, Helen. Unlucky for you, please sit down. Congratulations to our contestants. You clearly know how to spot a faker. Helen, where do you think you went wrong?
I don't know.
You're gutted, aren't you? You've been caught. You would have had £3,275.
Oh well.
Gary, how did you spot her?
She was getting far too many questions right that weren't within her age range, I didn't think.
No, I agree with that. Rob, you didn't spot her, but happily, your fellow contestants did. Why did you not see her?
I was thinking Jim or Helen, but I don't know, I just thought Jim for some reason.
Considering you did guess incorrectly, I'm sure you'll be happy to know that you're going away with £575. Lynn, you spotted Helen.
Yeah.
What drew her to your attention?
It was the question on the London streets, the Marble Arch one.
She might know that. You've been down to London, Helen, haven't you?
My family stay in London.
Yeah. Well, in truth, it doesn't matter how you spotted her. You did spot her, and you're going to go away with £475. Jim, you too spotted her.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, it was just the first gutting instinct in the first round where I can't remember what question it was, but I didn't think that she would have known that question. And the same in that last round about London.
You are actually going to walk away with £1,800. Congratulations to all our contestants. You did your job today. You spotted the enemy, and you're going home with what you justly deserve, the enemy's money. Helen, you lost today. We gave you the questions. You couldn't cheat well enough. So you get absolutely nothing. How did you do out there? Did you spot Helen? We've just seen her lose £3,225. Do you think you'd make a better enemy? If you do, and you'd like to be on the show, why don't you write to us at this address? The Enemy Within, Post Office Box 22122, London SE1 9GL. And please include a stamped self-addressed envelope. That's all for now. Helen has been discovered by a majority decision today, which is just as well because the audience thought it was Lynn. I guess it proves if you're going to cheat, don't get caught. And always remember, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. See you next time.